Trouble at Taraweeh by Rosalind Noor, illustrated by Rania Hassan. Umama had learned all about Laylatul Qadr. It was better than 1,000 months. The angels came down on this night and filled the earth. And the best part was that Allah answered everyone's du'as on this special night. "You stay put tonight, Fluffy," Umama said. "I need to focus on my very important du'a." Croak. It was the 21st night of Ramadan, the first odd night. Umama was going to focus on her big du'a tonight. She was going to ask Allah for a baby sister. All Umama needed to do was to stay out of trouble at Taraweeh, but she was a trouble magnet. One night, she left the taps on and flooded the wudu area by accident. Another night, she tripped over her prayer skirt and toppled a whole line of women. And just yesterday, she rearranged all the shoes neatly, but everyone got upset when they couldn't find their shoes anymore. No matter how hard she tried, something always went wrong. Tonight's Taraweeh has to be trouble-free. On the way to the masjid, Umama imagined herself with a little sister. She would show her how to hold Fluffy gently, she would have the perfect tea parties with her, and they would take turns pushing each other on the swings. Umama couldn't wait for Allah to answer her dua, and there was no better night to make dua than Laylatul Qadr. The prayer hall was packed. The sound of children running about and men and women reading Quran and making dhikr filled the air. Umama squeezed into a small spot. She closed her eyes tight and whispered to herself, "Please let nothing go wrong tonight, Allah, and please give me a baby sister." Allahu Akbar. Her dad's voice boomed out of the loudspeakers. Umama stood very still and concentrated. The first rak'ah went smoothly, and Umama made dua for a baby sister in sujood. Just as the second rak'ah started, she heard some commotion at the back of the prayer hall. Suddenly, a loud screech filled the air. Astaghfirullah! Umama tried very hard to ignore the noise, but she couldn't help herself. She looked back and gasped. "I'm so sorry." Umama scooped Fluffy off the top of the woman's head. She squeezed back between the lines with Fluffy squirming in her hands. "How did you even get here?" Umama whispered to him. "Ribbit, ribbit." Fluffy jumped free and hopped across the floor. Umama lunged towards him, but he was too fast. She tripped over her prayer skirt, yanking the speaker plug right out of its socket. The speakers crackled and then went quiet. The sound of her dad's voice became faint. Umama plugged the speakers back in, but they didn't work. No one could hear the imam anymore. Umama quickly stuffed her feet into a pair of slippers. She slid along the floor, opening all the doors along the hallway. She had watched her dad fit the new sound system just a couple of months ago in preparation for Ramadan, but she couldn't remember which room the switch box was in. "Ribbit!" Fluffy called from the darkness, but Umama couldn't spot him anywhere. Umama bit her lip and blinked her eyes fast. "If I don't fix this, I'm going to ruin Laylatul Qadr for myself and everyone else," she thought. At the end of the hallway, there was a room with a panel of switches. Umama clambered on top of a stool. "Bismillah," she mumbled, flicking off the first switch. Crash! Bang! Umama heard yelps and screams coming from afar. "Oops, I must have turned off the lights in the prayer hall." She held her finger over another switch. Her hand trembled. "Please, Allah, make this the right one." The speakers crackled and popped and burst back to life. "Ahem!" Umama spun around. "I believe this is yours?" Baba opened his hand. Umama turned red and her eyes began to water. "I'm sorry, Baba. I ruined Taraweeh for everyone. I wanted tonight to be perfect so I could focus and make my big dua." "The night isn't over yet," Baba said, "and Allah hears all prayers, so never lose hope. Come pray next to me." "Croak, croak," Fluffy barked into the microphone. "Alhamdulillah, thank you to Umama for fixing our speakers," Baba announced. "Brothers and sisters, shoulder to shoulder, please. Straighten the rows. Let us continue." There were no more mishaps that night, or for the rest of the last 10 nights of Ramadan. Umama imagined coming to Taraweeh next year with a little sister. She made her big, special dua in every sujood and at the end of every prayer. On the last night of Ramadan, her dad reminded everyone that if they had prayed the last 10 nights of Ramadan, then they had caught Laylatul Qadr. Have certainty that Allah accepted your worship on that special night and that He will answer your du'as. On the morning of Eid, Umama kissed Fluffy on his head. Eid Mubarak, Fluffy. Allah heard my dua and I know He will answer it very soon. The end.